The Fuji XF18 f2 has faithfully coped with my documentary style of shooting, whether it be weddings or events, for almost 6 years now, give or take some spates with the 14mm 2.8 and of course the magical 16 f1.4. I've always just been drawn back into the world of the 18mm f2. It's never let me down. Granted, this is not a lens for pixel peepers, not a lens for somebody that needs that edge to edge crazy sharp wow factor. This is a lens for down in the trenches documentary storytellers, and there's definitely a place for this in my kit bag. Now, I made a video about this lens way back when I started making Fujifilm videos at random, but what with all the changes since, in nearly 6 years, how many camera bodies have we been able to play with, I just felt it was worth the question, how does this lens fare almost 6 years down the line? So let's check it out, and I want to hear from you afterwards. Yes, as it's one of the original trio, focus speed is not the fastest, but you know, it's not as bad as you think at all, and for most people I think it's absolutely fine. Even in just random tests you can see that for the most part it gets the job done. So you know, I think there's a bit of overkill going on with the whinging about the focus speed. Now, there is something to say about the autofocus noise, and that might be an issue if you want to use this as a video shooter without a lav mic. Now, frankly, I don't think it's designed for video work at all, but you can get some very nice footage using this. But that obvious little bit of noise that you'll get, it's not ideal, and you'll definitely want to use a lav mic and somebody less good looking. And yeah, at the edges it's not the sharpest. It might lack that bit of magic, but do you need edge to edge perfection? Do you? Maybe it's not the most exciting focal length out there. It's a full frame equivalent of what I think 27mm, but you know what, it gets the job done. It's very handy in street photography, documentary style shooting. Storytelling is where it's at for this lens. Compact, lightweight, and an f2, a relatively fast aperture. Now, that aperture ring, relatively stiff, but it's sure enough, and it doesn't cause me any grief at all. Now, once we throw it onto the camera body, and I don't just mean with the T3 or, you know, the resolution power that we have on the modern bodies, but the IQ, frankly, is nice, especially in the center. Yes, it might not be stellar, but you know, you can stop down and you can see that really after 6 years throwing it on to a decent body. Well, let's even talk about the X Pro 1, because that's where it all started for me with this lens. It is what it is, and as you stop down things just continue to get better and better. But if you know me, I love to shoot wide open, so you know I can with this lens. It's sharp enough. Yeah, sometimes you might get some aberrations, but they're easy to correct, and for the style that I shoot, not a big deal. This thing has that original Fuji XF solid build quality. It's a precise lens, and if you're a manual shooter, well, that ring isn't that bad. I mean, it's not the best manual shooter ever, but it's there. As we said, aperture ring, precise, solid, and goes right round to the A mode if you're into that. What is it that keeps me coming back to this lens? Well, I mean, look at that for a start. It's compact, it's well built, it's got a relatively fast aperture. It just does the job for me solidly without getting in the way, without being in your face. It's not huge, big. I can easily move around the crowd with, well, I know I've added a little bit of bulk using a grip, but with a relatively small camera and a small lens, compact package just gets me there and helps me just move around freer without somebody constantly stopping me asking what I'm shooting with. The image quality is still spot on for me and the style of work that I shoot. It's more than sharp enough. It renders the image nicely. The colors, contrast, everything just works. And as I shoot wide open quite a lot, you know, it gets me the job done. But also, it's just got that nice feel to it. And in fact, you could argue that with the older bodies, it had an extra depth to it. I just find that as I've constantly gone up from the Pro 1, T1, Pro 2, T2, T3 now, and the other bodies that I've used it on, T10, a few other bits and pieces, XC range as well, it's just constantly got there for me. It's done the job. And even though the IQ is not that amazing at the edges, it's not that sharp at the edges, which is not a big deal for me. As you stop down, as you hopefully will ascertain from this little random clip by way of a test of stopping down, as I don't stop down that drastically in my general documentary style of work, you know, I think you'll appreciate that quite clearly things do tidy up, gets nicer, and it's very, very usable. We say get the job done, but it's not just a case of getting the job done. Look at the quality, the sharpness. Look at sample images on Flickr, for example. Hopefully you've seen it in mine too, to some degree. Now, as you know, if you're a regular subscriber, most of the samples that I show, especially with the lens reviews, etc., are straight out the camera, random street stuff that I have shot to understand what I'm using. Now, of course, this lens I've used professionally for many years, and I'm still showing you some random stuff, but these are images that have been sold, and, well, your opinion might differ, but I think you can appreciate that this lens has a lot of life in it yet. I'm not sure if I really care too much about a new version, because I'm not sure it could really give me what I've got right now. But what are the things that people want? Well, one of them, weather resistance. Now, looking into it, weather resistance might mean it would have to be that extra bit longer, and as the compact nature of this lens is a huge selling point for me, I'm not sure if I really need that weather resistance. But of course, that's something that you might really need based on how and where and when you shoot. Of course, if they're going to do that, well, they can continue to improve the IQ. Again, would it affect the compact nature with extra glass? Probably not so much as the weather resistance, of course, but yeah, I mean, you can always have better edge-to-edge sharpness, not going to lie, but it's not something that I'm crying out for personally. Now, it's not a sports lens, so faster focus, it's always something that people want, but I think something that I would benefit mostly, more in play really than anything, is a smoother autofocus experience for video. While it's not drastically bad, there's clear improvements that could be made at this focal length for us Fuji shooters that like to shoot video stuff, and that might even want to incorporate it into a vlogging style, because I mean the 27mm focal length is not a bad handheld out, you know, sort of focal length. Pretty decent, to be fair. Somebody even said it's their favourite selfie lens. You can get it very cheap on the second-hand market and not that expensive considering on the brand new market. But, you know, I think Well, we say that this lens has a reputation for not being amazing, and well, it was brought to my attention that that's probably a bit of an urban legend, and looking around, it might be something that seems to have grown out of a few random comments here and there, but I appreciate that it's not the blow your mind wow factor of certain other lenses. It might not be the appealing focal length for you, but I think this is a humble lens. It doesn't boast about the bokeh, but it can get there. It doesn't boast about anything particularly. It's discreet, and that's what I love about it. Now, the 14mm, even though I liked the 21mm full frame equivalent when I shot with Nikon full frame, that was just a bit too wide for my documentary work, bizarrely. The 16mm 1.4, yes, magic, possibly one of the top 3 Fuji XF lenses out there, possibly. Just a bit too big, you know, for me. It was a bit of a tough call going back to the 18f2, but like I said, that draw was strong. There are lenses for absolutely everybody. Somebody had a bit of a knock at why I was reviewing a budget lens on a previous video. You know, horses for courses, there's something for everyone, and we've got a lot that we can choose from. So, you know, this is just a personal opinion. We want to hear from you. How do you feel about this lens genuinely, if you've used it, or, you know, what are your reasons for choosing something else over this lens? Remember, we like to compare like for like, and your other 18mm equivalents are zooms, you know, 18 to 55. Not that bad, not far off at the 18 end, more or less. So, you know, we probably don't really need more lenses. Do we really need to upgrade the original trio? You know, do we? Or do we need to get out and shoot more with what we've got? Now it's all about the comments section below. So subscribe, hit the notification bell thing, and I'll see you in the comments below. See ya.